All right, everybody. So this is short and sweet because it's more of a show and tell than it is a presentation. By introduction, my name is MsDDom, and this is my slave CreamDream. We run the Carter Johnson Library and Collections for the Atlanta area. There are currently 9 annexes. So we are just one of them, and we, excuse me, hello, I'm trying to talk over you. And so we are one of them, and we are actually the first annex. So we are just here to give you some, like, maybe who, what, when, why, where, maybe we can answer some of that, and then go from there. I think we get some feedback. Oh, okay. No worries. And so the who is what I shared with you, is that we're the Carter Johnson Library. The main library is in Evansville, Indiana. That's where you will find Mama Vi and all the things. It is open for visitation. The library is housed in 2 houses. The first house is the main house, if you will, and then the second one also has books, but it is also held for a scholar. So if you want to come and study and do research there, you're able to do scholarly work there as well. Be forewarned, if you go, you may be sent back with books. I am not lying about that. And it is an awesome time to spend with Mama Vi because she tells you all the stories, all the different things. She also has a workroom in her house, which is like a mini library as well. And so you can look at all the different genres. You can also look at books and notebooks that are based on the regions. So there is a huge Atlanta book there as well. And then she has some of the older papers. She has
the Heretic.
Yeah, that and like older books where you have to use gloves to read them, like Venus and Furs. Those original books from France that are in French. So there's just a lot to be had when you go there. So we just wanted to share some stuff with you. The why. The why is on our thing. It's on our shirt. What's the why? It's on our shirt.
Oh, never again. Wait, what?
Never again in the
flames. Okay, never again, landfill, never again.
In the flames. So one of the things is to protect books. So we've heard a lot about banned books, but these would definitely be your banned books. So, you know, banned books, banned magazines. So the thing is to preserve all things that are kink, BDSM, and leather, porn, what else?
Just anything regarding the literature and photography and artwork of sexuality on all spectrums, but mostly the stuff that was very specifically sought out and destroyed. So we have a lot of really old, I'd say copies, but not like actual like photo scan copies of Physique Pictorial, which that was like the magazine.
We got some of those.
Yeah, we have a few of them. They're like 70 years old. These are older than most people here. And so, I mean, like a lot of people had Playboy. We only have one issue of Playboy, but this was kind of the thing. Like if you weren't interested in women, this was the book to have. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's not gay. It's just admiring
men showing off. And that was the whole thing, is that men got to show off their bodies. And you know, it's risque, not in the sense of the body, but it's risque in some of the ages of the men are in here. Some of them are under 18.
So you do,
yes.
Yeah. But there's a lot of influence from Tom of Finland. So then in the beginning it was just mostly just the body, and then eventually developed into more of incorporating uniforms and physique pictorial. So that's just one example of some of the issues that we have,
Some
but then
items.
we have
Yeah.
many other literature that's not exclusively older material, but stuff that is out there now. And a lot of them, there's some stuff that we have from the 80s and 90s that might jog some memories of a few people here, especially contestants or people who are no longer here.
Right, so we do have, even though we are the Atlanta Annex and we try to maintain and preserve all things Atlanta, we also still preserve all things kink and leather. So we try to have a section that highlights Atlanta first. Second, it will highlight the Southeast. So we'll have things like we have some things from North Carolina, some issues. There was a cookbook that the Tar Heels did. So we'll try to maintain those types of things. So we go up the East Coast until you get to Virginia, and then that's where the other annex is, the Hampton Roads. And so they'll do their area and continue up. So that's the purpose. Also, the why is we're trying to preserve those things that you might want to come see that are about Atlanta, Georgia, or about something on the Southeast coast. In Florida, they do have an annex as well. So there's some crossover, but we try not to do too much to take away from other annexes, if that makes sense. But that being said, we also have all annexes may have duplicates of some things. So you're able to see, you know, oh, this is in Atlanta, but we're looking at it here. So we have quite a bit of that kind of stuff too. So I said, who, what, no, why, what. So what, let's do that. So what we have, what do we have?
We did not bring it with us, but a lot of rare and antique books that we have. Think of Pawn Stars with erotica. So there's one book we have, maybe in English, The Art of Flagellation, that was written in 1754. So it's older than this country, the establishment of this country. And so it just really goes into detail how to properly flog someone. Although the language is very archaic, the fact that we were able to get our hands on this book, and right now it's currently being stored in a temperature and moisture controlled facility.
So yeah, most of our stuff is in storage. We do not have a physical building here. Most of the annexes do not have a physical building there. I think Boston has theirs housed in a house where they're able to do things. So most of our items are housed in storage. So we bring out, when someone wants to invite us out, we will curate it the way that you want to see it. So because we're here today, what we are showing is a variety of different things. We were at Southeast Black and Blue last in April. So we curated that to be able to show mostly gay male life, and then we added other items. So we can curate it to the way that people want to see it. So if someone wants to see just lesbian literature, we have that too, and then we'll add like a few other things that we may have. And POC, we have a lot of POC, a lot of things that are highlight just women. So we can curate whatever you need to see or want to see, because bringing out, excuse me, the entire would maybe fill up this room. It would fill up this room, that we have that much stuff, because we also have posters. We have, some people want to give us leathers, so we have leathers.
We have vests,
we have vests. We have a few patches we brought out. We have pins. I'm getting those in order. So we have a lot of things that we keep and curate and hold so that other people can see them. So I think that's it. Yeah, so we do have clothing. We don't have any toys, so we don't house that. People's photographs, we have personal. Sometimes people want to give us their personal journey, their leather journey. So Patty, that's Patty, right? She's a good example because she decided when she moved to Washington or Oregon, that she wanted to give us her personal story and journey. And I was like, oh, why? So let me give you a preface. I am not from Atlanta, Georgia, so I don't know all the things. And so I was like, why do you want to give us all of this stuff? And come to find out, she held a self-title in the 90s. And so this is where her journey started, which was in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was like, oh. And so, so this is just one of her notebooks with some information in it. She also gave us the pins that were on her vest. They're in a frame at home. We have those at home. So, so people can donate those things. We try not to take too many clothing, like too much leather, because we do have to try to get that blacked and taken care of. And so, but we will take personal papers, we'll take personal photos. We also have...
This is from Pride 1991, where it was sponsored by Miller at the time. But yes, there's a few, this has been an ongoing thing, and we want to make sure that those who donate to the library, whether it's personal artifacts or actual literature, we will take care of it, because we want to remember those who were there before us. And that's the most important thing, because we don't want anyone to be forgotten, because especially in the political climate that we live in, there's a lot of turmoil in terms of whose stories shall get told. And right now, we're dealing with the political turmoil of, in a sense, eradicating what's happening right now, especially with the banning of so many books, especially concerning those of sexuality. Because yes, sexuality, there's consent, especially as we focus on just adults, but we also have to keep in mind that sexuality is an ongoing endeavor. It's not something that you get at 18, but it's how you get to that point. It's that journey. And a lot of the stuff that we have here, a lot of people have discovered themselves, not only through personal experiences, but through these forms of media, to discover the person that they are today. And maybe some of you have encountered such materials such as these.
Yeah.
And I know some of it will look familiar.
Yeah, and so in that, it's very expansive. So I just want to say that, so you don't think like when you come up here and look, oh, it's going to be all leather, all kink. No, it's going to be those things that we as humans decide is our journey, because we want to explore these different areas, right? So I mentioned porn, which we have Playboy, and we also have a notebook with Playgirl in it. But also the reason why we decided, someone was giving away, they wanted to get rid of all of their Playboy magazines, and this person kept them in pristine condition, and they're in plastic here. Sorry. Am I still okay? Yeah, okay. I don't have a belt. That's why I was like, can you still hear me? I dropped my microphone.
It's off.
It's off. I dropped it off.
No, it just died.
Okay,
No.
there I am, but I'm real loud. Ugh.
You turn it off.
Okay. So I just wanted to show you, because I am speaking of porn and things that are vanilla, right? And so this person kept this magazine. All the magazines were like this. They were in a sleeve. I was like, oh yes, let me come over and look. Because the other reason that when we curate and when people donate stuff to us, we have an eye that is accepting all things, but we want to accept things with purpose, right? And so the reason, of course, that I have this one is because there is a black bunny on here. So that's why I went through the magazines. I didn't take all of them, I just took specific ones. And also in Playboy, there are interviews with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. So I actually picked those too. They were like, which ones do you want? And I didn't want to say. I was just like, can I just come look? And so, because I wanted those, because that's, for purpose, to show, even though Hugh Hefner had all of his things, and that's what we're not here to talk about. But the fact that he did that, he did an interview with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
The interesting story about the Martin Luther King interview is that Martin Luther King's PR team approached the Atlanta Journal-Constitution first, and because of the controversial existence and movement of the civil rights movement for MLK, they shut him down. So then he went to Hugh Hefner, his PR team, and that's how he had his interview through Playboy. So if you wanted to know exactly what Martin Luther King's thoughts were, you had to go through Playboy first, and so that's why a lot of times, like, I don't know, for people in your past, they say, oh, I read it for the articles. They were actually very serious, because there was a lot of stuff that, as insincere as it may be, the two gentlemen that killed Emmett Till, no one wanted to interview them, but they got interviewed through Playboy. And because of double jeopardy, they actually revealed like how they did it, but because they were found innocent, they weren't able to use that against them. But it was something to sell not only magazines, but just something to capture the spirit of, well, exactly what's going on in the country, besides understanding our sexuality through these forms of media, but also as a way to be politically cognizant. Because even this situation now, it's political in nature. There's no other way around it, but the definition and existence of our sexualities is by fact political in nature. It's just, there's no way around it. And so even these itself, they're their own political statements. So these people who published these, who wrote these, they had the political stance that we deserve a right to exist. We don't want anyone to deny who we are as people, as men, as women, for the time being, as trans people. We're still currently working on that, and it's always, like I said, an ongoing endeavor. This is not a thing that like a means to an end, but something that we know that we can follow through history, that this is not a new thing that we're discussing, but we're working on the shoulders of giants to keep moving forward.
And I think that's important, is that, you know, the shoulders of others, or just picking up the torch of others that have come before us. Like some of the things that people may think in the community is new, it's like it's inspired by something, someone. And so that's evident by just everything that we have, like laying on the table, and the notebooks that we have. You know, the POC leather flag, of course, that's inspired by the actual leather flag, you know, by Tony DeBlas. And so, you know, there are things that we are trying to hold for you to see, but also understand that you can be inspired by seeing and touching these things. Because that's one of the other things that Mama Bai always tells us, is to make it touchable. Make it where you can come up and touch these things. You can flip through the book, those types of things. You can look at these calendars, you know. So that's, was that the how? I'm getting mixed up. I'm hangry, I need a Snickers.
There's so much, like it just, because there's also active parties that want to burn a lot of this material. There's bidding wars on eBay for these specific articles. These aren't for sale, but we want to get the whole collection, all like the entire volume or the entire publication of, let's say, like we're still missing some drummer issues. I know the Carter Johnson Library in Evansville has a majority of them, but we also want kind of the same. We know they're out there.
But people will bid and they will buy for hundreds of dollars just to burn it, which is kind of like amazing. Mm-hmm. Like you could just burn $100, right? Instead of like buying a magazine, but people will do that. People will do that with vests and stuff, like people who passed away, like their, you know, if their family finds out, sometimes the family will just donate everything, including their leather vest. They'll take all the pins off, so you'll know that it is. Sometimes they'll strip the patch off the back, but you'll see it in a Goodwill, and you can tell it was someone's vest because you see all the holes from the pins, and you see the stitching line from the back patch, And so you'll have people who will do that, or they'll sell it as it is. I think in my time, I've seen a lot of Hellfire vests on eBay, a lot of them. And you're trying to try to get those so that you can hold those. And so, yeah, people will do all of the evil things.
People and families. And so some of these people who had families, their families didn't know anything of what they published, will actively seek out and just destroy whatever they can, because it's, in a sense, they feel like they disgraced the family, but we also cannot forget what they've done to help us inspire who we are today, because they always say you die the first time and then you die forever when you are completely forgotten, consigned to oblivion. And that's the thing that we ultimately aspire at the library, is that we don't want someone to permanently cease to exist. We can remember their names, but we also don't want to forget that. But again, you have third parties that want that to occur, and it comes also in this form. They want to destroy everything, everything, just so they can, in a sense, have an argument for purity reasons, which is frustrating, because we're not, I mean, that's the thing about human beings, is that we're not, in a sense, like this rigid binomial structure of how we define sexuality. Sexuality is however you define it, not as how other people or even how society defines it, which is the frustrating thing, because you have people out there that try to narrow all of us into these specific categories, when all of this is uncategorizable, which is not really a word.
It's not even a word.
It's not a word, but I made it up. I haven't, put any rights in it. But the point still stands, is that you can do nearly anything, as long as you abide by the boundaries of consent and other things that don't, potentially violate the freedoms of an individual or others involved in your altercations.
And so, what we also try to show, which I said before, is, that kink is not new, or we can call it kink, right? But, when you look back in history, there are other things that you're like, that was kinky, what they were doing, but it didn't have that term. So that's why, with some of the publications that go back to the 1700s, like you can see all of the things, but we're still human. There's a lot of things that we just kind of want to try. So with that, we'll just kind of show you some of the things that we had. I showed you the Playboy. One of the artists from the 70s and the 80s is Ephraim Gonzalez. And so he did a lot of the photos that sometimes we'll see shared around. Most of them will be in black and white, but he did capture a lot of the things that were going on in New York at the time, in the meatpacking district, those types of things. Oh, I should put a pin right there. Like, how do you know all of these things? So, because when we went to Mama Vi's house, we did not know that was training. So we have been told most of the things that we are sharing with you, and then other items we have ourselves researched. But yeah, we were trained twice, and so that's why we're kind of like the head librarians, because the purpose also for us to even bring this out is to also share stories with you, to share information with you. So that is one of the requirements. So anyway, Ephraim Gonzalez took quite a bit of pictures, and so one of them was of, this is Shades of Leather. It is a book with people of color in them and photos. And this is dedicated to the woman on the front, which is Michelle Buchanan. She was one of the people who started Blick magazine back in the 90s. And so it just gives you an eye of people of color doing leather, people of color doing kink, all of those types of things. And then I have the Blick magazine. This is the hard copy. I'm not going to give it out because this is not the final. This is more of a draft here. Black mistresses, I am talking more about black people. I bet you can't guess who this is. That is Jill Carter. There was a magazine, Black Mistresses in Review, and then I think it was quite pricey. Like a lot of these magazines back then were quite pricey, like $5. I think those drummers were like $10 or something like that. I'm like, ooh, you have to put a magazine on layaway. And then we have calendars. I think calendars are great because it captures pictures of a lot of people. And I know everybody knows who this person is. If you don't, I'll share with you. This is Alan Penrod. And so they did a calendar back in 2013 called Dirty Boys. So if you want to come up here and flip, and he actually signed it. Then we have one that is MsDDom calendar of 2005. We have some calendars from Women of Drummer. And in these calendars, again, you get to compete for a month. So you're in here for your month. And then we have the, I didn't bring my glasses, International Miss Leather and Boot Black calendar as well. So you'll get to see all of the people. And so I like calendars. I keep mine. I don't have regular calendars. I like to buy calendars. I think our latest calendar is of the parks, the national parks. So I'm going to keep that, right? So same with Dirty Boys, keeping that calendar, and that was actually given to us. So we gladly took that with us. There are different types of magazines. Whatever we can find, whatever we can get, whatever is told to take back to Georgia, we do take that. So we have a Barking News, which was a short run of magazines. I believe the last one was the Anniversary magazine, which was in 2018, but just it's magazines that speak to the type of kink that we do. We have Black Beat. And this is more, it's magazines, but it is also programs. So when Black Beat was around, you could go to that event, conference, and so we have some things there. We also have things that come from like contests and awards. So we have here the Pantheon of Leather, that is number 6, which was in New Orleans in 1996. We have some cookbooks, which I think would be really good to have, but we have a special one which is called Cooking Naked. I think it's not naked, what does it say? Cooking in the nude, yes. Cooking in the nude. So there are a variety of things that groups could have created, and someone got something, and once again, I'm cleaning out my whatever chest of books, and I'm gonna give this book to you all. So, you know, Tar Heels Leather Club created that in 2013. So that's a keeper.
Well, just as a note, all the recipes in this book were actually put in by nearly all the members of the Tar Heels Club back in 2013. So these aren't just one person, but the entire club contributed recipes for everyone to share. So again, not only do we memorialize people through writings or pictures, but also something to share. And food has always been a universal thing, so they thought this would be great because they would want to share something that made them happy, and then they could pass that along to the next generation or the next group of people that come by.
So I have a couple of books, and then we'll get to the point where we'll let you come up here and look at them. So we have one that's high heels and corseting. So, you know, again, not necessarily says kinky high heels, but it talks about wearing corsets. And some of us have a fetish for corsets, men and women alike. So there's that book. Are you trying to look through that one?
Yeah.
Which one? Oh,
these are Stroke Presents Really Big Cocks. And so these are very direct, mostly POV shots of man-on-man action. There's a few side shots, but
And we want this book to stay here.
yes, we don't want this
We
disappearing.
don't want it to disappear.
But check this one out. It's pretty fun.
And then training and gags. So you get to get trained. Trainers, rather, I'm sorry. Trainers and gags. So training you on how to use a gag, you know. But there are other things in here too. People are dressed in their fetish wear. But mostly it is talking about how to use a gag and ball. Most of our other magazines follow a theme. We do have trans magazines. We have newsletters that were created by some of the organizations, like I said, on the East Coast. So we have pet magazines. We have Drummer, Bound to Gag, Bear magazines. Things that speak to lesbian and leather dykes, which is on our backs. So again, this is literally like,
Not a lot.
this is like an eighth, if I can say that, a 16th.
I was gonna say a 16.
A 16th, not a 32th. A 16th of what we have, actually what we have. So, are we done? Did I do who, when, how? I think I did all the who, what, when, why, how. I think that's it. So you can, if you live in the Atlanta area and if you live in the East Coast, you can get in touch with us. We do have an email, and I did not bring that out here, and you didn't bring the donation thing. So we do take donations, but we also do take requests for coming out to an event. So we will come to an event locally. It's easier locally. I will tell you that it's easier locally. It is more challenging if we do travel, and so that's why our donations go towards that, towards traveling. And like I said, ours is housed in a storage unit, so our donations go towards paying that monthly cost until we figure out how to get an actual building for it. But we still want you to know that anytime you want to look at anything we have, you can even check out books. We don't have library cards, but we will take your ID. But we have a way that people can check out books or magazines for, a month or so, and then bring it back to us. We had the Mr. Atlanta Eagle, for example. This would have been a boy, David. He wanted to do some research on IML, and we actually do have a book on IML. And so he wanted to just kind of study to prepare. And so we have the 25th anniversary book, tabletop book. And if you know, he was one of the top 10 that year. So we just try to make sure that you have something and we're available for you to ask us questions and check out books. Did I get it? Did I get it in? And then now you can ask us questions if you've got questions. I shouldn't have stopped there. If you have some questions for us, which hopefully you don't, you just really want to come look.
Yes.
I'll start. So in terms of, like you mentioned earlier, there are some like books or like things you have that are so old and like you have like keep them in like temperature stored places. Like what's like the criteria for like a particular book or particular like, you know what, this is too delicate, this is too like we have to like keep it in like a safe space versus something that just happens to be old but like the public can access it.
I mean,
That's a good question.
If you specifically request for it, we're fine. If you
But
take
you're saying are you saying to request it, or how we accept it, or things like that? So most of those older books do not come through us. They generally come through the main library in Evansville. And so then she will let us know, like, do you have said book? And then we will get them. Now, I think it is a good question, and I will go back and ask, is how she came to have so many copies, because in the rare book room there are like, was it like 5 or 6 Venus and Furs, and they're big, they're pretty big books, and but they were numbered. So when they were published, they were numbered. Yes, so, and there were only so many copies of those books. And so we can't even take one of those books. So I think we have like a more recent version. We do not have any of those original numbered books. But, you know, in the sense of like what is accepted, I think it is anything, honestly, anything that speaks to kink, BDSM, leather, gender, race. I believe it is anything that you want to donate, absolutely. And part of that also includes finding what's out there. So there are a lot of people that are in Mama Vi's circle that actively surf the internet looking for these things. And they will let her know like, hey, there's this book, blah, 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 let me grab that. Or they'll just go ahead and get it and ship it to her. So there are just a lot of people who are just into looking at those older books. But nothing is really off the table. Because there's Judy Blume's book is in the library, right? And so you would think like, why Judy Blume? I read that when I was 14. But there are some things that are going on, some conversations in that book, right? And so why not? Like, why not? And so I don't think anything is off the table. Yes.
Sorry, I came late to the show.
No worries.
Do you have a list of things that you are missing, like you're trying to create a collection of every drama magazine or something like that?
At the main,
Because there are people like me that make boxes of scrap boxes, big deals where I actually want, but I don't want to ship it in that box. So this is something that might need.
So let me answer before you answer. I will still say the same thing I said, like nothing is off the table. If you give it to us and we have a dupe, it is no harm, no foul. Go ahead.
but even as you're saying, like, there's still some issues of Drummer Magazine that we're missing. At the main library, in the library here, we do categorize everything. We do make sure like what we have in our inventory, like what's in our possession, what's being loaned, what we need. We'll ask the main library for that. The main library, however, they definitely highlight what's missing, and then they make that a priority to fill in the gap. So it's always an active thing of what are we missing, what do we have, how can we complete this collection.
How do I really know that if I have certain things, how do I query whether they're in that collection?
I mean, even us or reaching out to the main library, they can let you know what they have and what they don't have. And so it's
But
really,
they're not gonna tell you no.
yeah,
That's if someone says, I have a box of this, what do you need out of it? You know, it's kind of like the Playboy magazines. Did I want all of them? No, I only wanted some specific ones. But
they were
again,
gonna
if
throw
she
'em
was,
away.
no, there was some they weren't going to allow to go. So if she would have said, do you want this whole box? I would have said yes. But because she even said there were some that they were going to keep, then I was like, well, let me just get the ones I want. So, but there won't be like an absolute no. You know, using Drummer as an example, we brought the Drummer book, like that's number 5. That's number 5 of the notebooks. There are several notebooks, but our number 4 is the one that's incomplete. And so we were like, we don't want to bring you the incomplete one. We want to bring you one that is complete. So I think we have like, is 8 notebooks? We have a lot of notebooks of Drummer. And so before, when we did the last inventory, that's how we started numbering them. And then we found out that the one notebook was missing quite a bit. So yeah, but if it, just give us anything.
Take it.
Anything you got, we'll take it. Any other questions for us?
How modern does your collection go? Like, I came of age with XY magazine, and I feel like I really wish that I could go back and look at XY magazine the day it was published. But that feels a little bit new compared to Drummer and some other stuff you've been talking about.
So then we would have to look for that magazine.
Okay.
And usually that's how it happens. It's just like, oh, we heard someone talk about a magazine. We need to go look at it. And so even some of the MsD magazines, those are newer, you know, than, you know, of course, a Playboy or a Drummer, you know, those are newer. But we really don't have like how far. We know that the oldest item that we have in our annex is 1700. The most recent thing that we may have,
This year?
it would be this, and that's this year. But you know, to like kind of fill in the gaps on that, that would really be tough for us to kind of like figure that out. So we just say from 1700 to
Now,
yeah.
we might have stuff older, but
Yeah.
we want what we can get our hands on, and not for like we want to make sure that someone who read the same magazine that you did, we want to bring them back to that time. That's the magazine I found out who I am as a person. So we don't want to, in a sense, like we want this to be a nostalgic experience, because I know there's a lot of material here, but we don't have it all. We would like to have it all. We wish we could bring it all, but we can only bring what is asked of us. And if we did have it specific, if you asked for it, we could bring, but that's something we're gonna have to look into.
Yeah, we're gonna have to like look into that magazine for real.
No, XY was just like, I mean, it was both in white ways, but it was a fairly risque publication. It's like, I would regret it.
Like physique pictorial?
It was just, no, hold on.
Okay,
Well, we are interested.
we want to know.
Yes.
So we need to tell us about your magazine and we'll find out about it. Any other questions? Before you come and turn the page? Oh, you ready to touch the book? Yeah, we ready to be quiet.
How much time do we have?
So we have, you have about 15 minutes. I know it seems like grocery games, but it is not. You have like 15 minutes to come up here and fumble through and see what we have. And we thank you for listening to our little pitch here about the library. Thank you.